Hey, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my photo chats. So, a couple of weeks ago, I drove out to California because Mary Lee is performing a one-woman show out there, and I want to be there for the premiere. And it's a beautiful, wonderful show. If you end up seeing it coming to your town to a different festival or a different theater, it's called Schmaltzy and Princey, Diary of a Not So Great Daddy's Girl. And it's just wonderful. And so I went out there, I photographed some production stills for her so that she could have them for marketing. And then I was staying in West Hollywood. And West Hollywood was having a pride parade that day. And so I knew I wanted to go out and photograph it. I was sure it's going to be full of characters and lots of people being very joyous. And I went out and I photographed it with my standard D610 with a 28 1.8. And it's a great setup for photographing a parade. But I didn't want to only photograph it in a digital format. I also wanted to shoot film. So I also brought a Leica with a 50f2 Summicron. So these are the only two cameras I brought. And these two, I said, I'm going to photograph the whole event. And I ended up photographing some with this that I really love what it made, and some with this, but some of the things that I wish that I had shot on film, I had shot on digital. And to me, there's a difference in the tone of both sets of photographs. And I'll put both sets in the comments so you can see. I think there's a huge difference. Both of them document. Both of them are clear and have the ability to show what happened. But the digital feels so present and the film feels so like I've recorded history. Is that what I would want to say? I want to say, somebody once asked, what is the difference between film and digital? Well, you may have heard me say this before. If you photograph the with a video camera, the Mets game or the Rockies game tonight, and then you show people that footage, and then you also on your same television bring up a scene from Angels in the Outfield or any other baseball movie where a player is catching a ball, no one will think that the movie is a replay because somehow film feels like past tense. And everyone will know which one is the replay of the Mets game tonight because digital feels present tense. And that's exactly what I felt like in these sets of photographs. Digital feels like now, right now, happening live. It's perfectly clear and perfectly good, full of color. And the black and white has its own feeling. And I would love to put those side by side in a gallery someday. And the black and white blown up big would have such soul. And the digital would have such clarity. And neither one is good or bad, but they're both different. And if I were working quicker, I probably would have two cameras out there, and I would have shot both cameras with film. But I did like having the wide angle. I didn't have the wide angle with me on the Leica that day. In fact, when I was driving out, I said, I cannot bring too many cameras. So I only brought out a Rolleiflex, one Leica with a 50, and that D610. And that was like a good setup because sometimes when I do road trips, I take too many cameras. It's hard not to want to take a few other options. And it's like, no options this time. And it worked out great. It was nice to be kind of lightweight in my camera setup and carrying them in and out of the hotel and in and out of, going back outside with them. But I'll put a link to the photos, and I think those kind of events are important to photograph for me, but also such a difference between the way it works with film and digital. Such a difference between what the final outcome is. And I even think that there may be different responses from people, just like I talk about 8x10 has a different response by the people who are seeing the photo being made, and also by how it affects the sitter as you're working with that big camera. I think the photographs shot on film have a feeling that are different and will give the viewer a different impression than the one shot on a digital format. And I'd be curious to see if you see that and think that. And then, no matter what, whenever I shoot something that is really good and strong in digital. For me, I wish it were on film. All right, that's today's photography talk. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, hit the Patreon, and I'll be back next time, if I can find the remote. I'll be back next time. We'll talk more photography. As always, here's the good light.